Welcome back. Well, more evidence now that very few South Africans are able to get enough books to read and to expand their knowledge and understanding of the world. The Nal'ibali Trust says that only around 58% of people in our country have access to any kind of community library. You may remember those findings just 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago, that show that around 82% of our children in grade 4 cannot read for meaning. Nqabakazi, Gina, is the director of the Nal'ibali Trust. Nqabakazi, good afternoon to you and thank you for your time. We all know how important reading is. How difficult is it for people to access libraries, to go to a library and read books and take out books there?
Good afternoon, Stephen. Thank you for having me. It is a challenge. It is a challenge because we do know that the ratio of available libraries compared to the community and the distance in terms of accessing them, it's quite a challenge. And our partnership with the National Library South Africa was for that purpose, exactly to say where are the gaps and how can we plan so that we tailor our interventions and resource allocations to see how do we better improve the access to libraries. So there is a new concept that the National Library introduced so that they can promote easy access to libraries, which they call dual purpose libraries. So it is school libraries that are transformed into dual purpose, so they are used by the schools and also used by the communities. So we know that we do have more schools in most communities, so it promotes that easy access to reading materials.
I was going to say, it seems to me very likely that libraries and apartheid spatial development are almost still the same, that the richer the area, the more likely you are to have a library. The poorer the area, the less likely you are to have a library. So then using schools, because schools are everywhere, it's probably the best way to get around that.
Exactly. And also from the findings, we discovered that actually the number of people who do use library has improved. It's around 55% compared to 2016 when the National Reading Survey was done by the Book Development Council. And from there, we realized that it's only 28% actually who do visit, if we are looking at last year, who do visit the library. So they do use it, but they don't visit it more often. We would really love to see people visit more than twice a month. And most of the people who do visit the library, there's only 19% who do borrow the books or take them home. The others, they read books directly at the libraries.
So for many years in many societies, people worry that children aren't reading, and they aren't reading novels, and they aren't reading for fun. And in Britain, people used to worry about this. And then a woman called J.K. Rowling published a series of books. Even you might have had to read them to your children. And they were called the Harry Potter books. And suddenly, across Britain, across the English-speaking world, people were queuing children to buy books. I don't know if we have anything like that in South Africa. Most of the books in our libraries appeal probably to an American, a European, let me say very clearly a sort of white sensibility, a white experience of life. Do we have a problem that we don't have enough authors, we don't have enough people writing about the experience of black children in our society for black children? We don't have a South African Harry Potter.
On the contrary, Stephen, we've got a large pool of authors and African storybooks that are produced locally, and they are accessible from the literacy organization. I think there is that disconnect from the people who are looking for these books and the people who are producing these books. And it is a challenge because we need more platforms that can promote access for African storybooks. It is stories that are produced by native speakers of the languages, and also they cover content that is African and that is familiar to our communities, and children, they get to read more about content that they see every day and they can relate to. So there is quite a lot of these. And the only challenge, I would say, when it comes to libraries, it would be the procurement policies. It's something that we were talking about this week, to say we need in our procurement policies to buy more fiction books and also expand our circulation system so that there is more access to more African storybooks.
Many people have said that where they live, the libraries in this country are closed on weekends, and particularly on Saturdays. I know this is the case in Johannesburg, for example. That must be a huge problem. Do you come across that? That the very day when people could take their children to a library, the library is closed?
It is a challenge. I was with the CEO of the National Library yesterday, and such questions were raised as well as to the different systems in different provinces, and also in terms of authority, who's in charge of the libraries in the different provinces. So they apply different procedures and laws as to how they run the library. So it is a challenge at national level to regulate how libraries work at local environments. But also it is platforms, interactive platforms where people can voice and surface such things so that they can reach decision makers and they can reach policy makers so that such things can be addressed on time. So we are promoting such access, and we are on a road show as we just recently launched the National Reading Barometer. So we are going around in provinces and also meeting with different stakeholders to raise awareness, to say how do you improve access to libraries and what kind of challenges do we have so that we can have that interactive relationship and be able to be responsive on time.
There are many other things. I mean, there's slightly strange problems that happen in libraries. I've seen someone on Facebook complain that a library in Joburg wouldn't give their children a library card. I mean, they waited for 9 months to get a library card for their child at the library. I sometimes wonder that maybe, and I mean, I love books. I think you can probably hear that, but I love books, and I imagine you do too. I don't know if I worked in a library, if I would still love books. I mean, is there maybe an issue about, you've got to use a library to encourage people. You've got to really use it to encourage children, to empower people. There's a sort of attitude to it that's really important. I mean, having a story time is really important at a library.
True. Actually, the partnerships that are with government and also with civil society, they are improving, encouraging, and transforming the library environment to be more enticing and more children to have positive experiences when they get to the libraries. So in those partnerships, we also work with the librarians, the staff, so that they can bring the stories, the content that is in the books to life. We have reading clubs that are run in the libraries. We have reading corners that are more attractive to children, so that children don't have to be sitting formally when they are reading books. They just have to be free to do it the way that they would love to, so that it's more fun and it's more enticing and cultivating, and also they would love to go back to the library more. So we're transforming these spaces, and in other spaces we have literacy centers which also have the same structure as the libraries. So these are at the back of the schools where they have different corners which have different functionalities, where children can write, they can play games and still read books and read to each other. And so we're transforming the experience of reading in the libraries and also reading within the school libraries, or we call them literacy centers. So the traditional view of libraries where people have to sit quietly, don't make any noise, and we're reading old books, and some are from foreign countries that we don't even relate to. That has been transformed. So the partnerships between the National Library and the different civil society, including Nal'bali, as we are known for Nal'bali for bringing stories to life, and we spark the love and joy of reading. So the story time is never the same.
Nqabakazi, Gina, thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate the time, Director of the Nal'ibali Trust.